Today I'm talking about automating our daily tasks with scripting. So it covers several items. The first one is what is scripting, and then why scripting. And I'm going to offer several cases that I'm currently working on my work environment, and then how you manage your script. And then finally, if we have time, we'll have a QA session. So in fact, you are already doing scripting. In fact, so I'm going to go through only the basic concept instead of the details of scripting. And the first thing first, my name is Adler, and I'm a software engineer at OneAd, which is an online video advertising platform that annoys you when you view the news website. And mainly I'm a Ruby on Rails developer, and I write Ruby, JavaScript, and sometimes PHP, even though I hate the syntax of PHP. And then you can find the GitHub account, Twitter, and blog under that. So then, what is scripting? Let's make it very simple first. A scripting can only be one line or several lines, like a hello world. That can be called a scripting, because scripting is just as broad as programming, that you write code and then you are scripting. So let's make it a little bit useful than only outputting a hello world. How do I get my local IP address? If I'm in my terminal, the fastest way to do it is to use the command ifconfig, and then it will give me a lot of information on this. And then if you have experience, you may find here on this line start with INET, and then this stuff is my local IP address. But in fact, I'm a very lazy person. I don't want to look at the information. I want this information to just come out and give me that. So there's a script that I can do with this. The first one is that in our Ruby script, we write a first command that the same command I just said is ifconfig, and then we use a pipeline and say grep inet that I just said. This line start with inet, and then another pipeline to exclude IP 127.0.0.1, which is definitely not the information that we want. And then we use the regular expression to grab the information that we want, which is we are looking for. We're looking for the numbers that start. It ranges from 0 to 9, and its length is from 1 to 3 digits, and times 4, which is the format of our IP address. And then finally, we use this regular expression to match the output that we just get from our ifconfig, and then change it to string. And then we get our IP address. This is a little bit complicated in the logic, but in fact, it will make our text very quick. And then we can refactor it into this, which may introduce some style issue. I know some people don't like the style of this, but you've got the idea that we can do it in any format that you want, and to write it in any style that you want. So basically, what is scripting? Scripting makes small programs that solve small problems. Because scripting is very case specific, and it only focuses on one problem at a time. So that's how I call it small programs solving small problems. And also, it saves some time. Like I just said, if we want to look at our IP address, then we don't have to scan through all information that output from the ifconfig command. It saves some time, and then it is easy to write, and it is easy to manage. And also, you can show off to your team members that you are doing a lot of stuff only in one command. Okay, so very quickly, I'm going to go through several cases that I'm now working on using. So the first scenario is that to clean the old files that I downloaded from a browser. And the second one is to shut down my local server, which is a little bit tricky, but I'll go through the details later. And the third one is to import our database data from our production environment to our local environment. So the first one is to clean the old files. The scenario is that I usually download the files from my browser into only one directory, which is the default directory. If you are using either Mac OS X or Windows, it will give you a default directory, and I just downloaded them into that directory. So after like 6 months or a year or 2 years, that directory will be very, very huge. And it is very hard to track down that which files that I want to keep or which files I want to delete. So how I manage the directory is that I scan through the directory and then I drag the files that I don't want and put them into trash. However, there will be a very effective way to do it is to use scripting. Let's see how we can do it. This short script achieved the same result that I just said. It cleaned up any file that I downloaded 4 weeks ago. So the first line you can see we require active support, which allows us to use the method like 1.day or 2.weeks, something like that. And so in the first line we define we define the time that we want to clean up our files. And then in the next session, we list all our files in that directory, which is a directory that in default directory in Mac OS X, this part, and then we make it an array. And finally, we go through that array, and then we check that if this file is a file, and then if this file is the last time being modified is less than the time we define here, which is time now minus 4 weeks, and then we will remove this file. So this achieves the same result that I just said, that it removes the files that I downloaded 4 weeks ago, and then you can put another message, something like it's done at the end, so that it tells you that it's done. But moreover, we can make it, we can do some other stuff to make it more automated, and then we don't have to run this command like once a week or twice a week, which is to use Chrome. For those who don't know Chrome, Chrome is a schedule tool for you to run command on a period basis. So for example, we can see here that we set up a Chrome task that runs on every Sunday. Here, on every Sunday, midnight, 12 o'clock, and we run this command, Ruby clean files.rb. It runs the task right here. So it will save a lot of time, and I don't have to maintain or clean up the download directory anymore. And the second one is a little bit tricky, that when we are developing our Rails project, sometimes some ridiculous gem will crash our Rails application, and we cannot shut down the server with Ctrl+C, which is the most common way to shut down the Rails server. And I once used a gem called AXLSX. I don't know if anyone uses it. It's a gem for outputting Excel format. And that gem is very annoying, that it crashes and you can't shut down the server. And it doesn't tell you what happened, it just ended. So the most effective way to shut down the server is to use the lsof command, and then you assign a port 3000 that runs on your, which is a Ruby thread that runs on, and then it gives you all the thread that runs on port 3000, and then you find the PID on this side, and then you run the kill command, you run kill-9 PID, and then you shut down the server. But it is okay to run only once, but if you have to debug like 2,000 times a day, something like that, it will be very annoying. So, because at that time, the schedule is very tight, so I run a script and then do the things for me. The first line, you can see that I use the same command, lsof, and then find the output and save it to a variable. And then and again, I use regular expression to find the PID for me. And yeah, I'm going to go through the digits here and then match the output and make a string. And then finally, I execute the command kill -9 and then give it a PID. Then I shut down the server, which is better and more effective than every time I run all these commands manually. And the third case I'm going to talk about is to export and import in the MySQL database, which I believe is more useful for you. So when we are developing our Rails project, there must be bug, and sometimes the system is very buggy. So we will need to export our database data from our production environment and import to our development environment. And the way to do it is to use a series of commands. First, as you can see, we use SSH to log in to our remote server. And then we use MySQL dump on the remote server, and then export it to a file. Then we exit, and then we use SCP to download it to our local environment. And then finally we use MySQL command, and then import it to the database, which is a little bit troublesome here because you have to wait until you connect it and download the file. It all takes time. So the script that solves this problem is something like this. As you can see, we require some library that allows us to connect through SSH and SCP. And the first two lines is as you can see, it's remote DB password. You type in the password that you are going to use remotely and locally. Or if you don't care about security, you can just put your password in this file, which I don't recommend. And then after you get all the passwords, you will start an SSH connection to this IP with this username. And then after that, it will execute the command use the command MySQL dump to output export the file. And then we download the file. And then after that, we execute locally MySQL command and then import these data to our database. That is the process. So from these three cases, we can see that scripts are very task-specific. They are small programs, solving small problems. So my problems may not be your problems. And you have your own problems to solve. So I encourage you to find your patterns, especially those patterns that requires no parameters. That is just a series of commands. You can do it with a series of commands so that you can make it a script to automate this process. So after that, I'm going to go through a little bit on how to manage your scripts. The point here is that if you do not manage your script and you make your script everywhere, that is on a lot of files everywhere, then you won't recognize that which file is what. And when you want to use a file, then you have to search through a lot of file locations and directories. So the purpose of managing the scripts, there are two purposes. The one is that you have all script at a glance, and then a famous line, write once, run anywhere. And the tool I'm going to recommend is rake. I believe you're all familiar with rake command because when developing a Rails project, it is inevitable to run something like rake db migrate, rake dbc. So, but the system rake is very convenient that you can manage all your rake tasks in your global rake folder, which is in this directory that I show on this slide. You can make a .rake folder, and you make all the rake tasks in that folder. So that when you use a rake command, you will search through that folder and then pick up the task that you indicate. So everything you have to do, and the thing you have to do is to prefix the command with rake command. And the most important part is that it has description support. So if you write a script like 1 year ago, and after a year you have to reuse it, or you have to maintain some scripts, then you have description support that you can recognize the script at once. And in the rake file is something like this, that you can first give it a description that says hello world, and you define the script, and you define the task. And the task default means if I don't give it any parameter, I just run rake, and it will go through this, find this default task and run it. And then I got some task that I just said, something like that, get my local IP and shut down the server, or import my production DB to my development DB. So that all the tasks I just shown can put it here, can be put here. So you can manage the tasks like in Rails. You can separate them into different files. You don't have to put them in only one file, and you can put them and name it like this. You can restart.rake, import.rake, and local IP.rake, and clean.rake. But sometimes it is confusing that if you run a rake command in your Rails project or Rails directory, it will go through all the models and all the stuff that in the Rails project. So you have to put an option that -g after the rake command, so it will go through only your system rake directory. So it will take only like maybe less than a second to go through all it and run a script. And another method, even though I don't recommend this, but it is also useful to use this, is to make all the scripts executables. Basically, it's just like rake, but you don't have to type the rake command in front of the script. And I believe many of you have known this, that you can make all the script executable. But the bad part is that there will be too many commands in the system, so it might be conflict with other existing commands. The way you do it is to make prefixing with your script by the language variable, and then you use chmod command to make it executable, and then you remove the .rb at the end. And then finally, you have this command that you can do, or even more, you don't want to exemplify the file location here, that // you want to get rid of this, you can change the system variable in your bash rc or zhhrc. Then you put it a script or any directory that you manage your script after the path variable, so that you can use hello like this. So that's it. I give you a very short recap that what I just said, scripts are small programs solving small problems, and scripts are case specific. And then automation saves on energy and time, just like what I said. If I have to go through all the commands, it takes a lot of time there. And then finally, I can encourage you to manage your script with rake, and then make your own script. Thank you. Do you have any question? I believe I still have like 2 or 3 minutes. Or I'll leave it to the next speaker.
问问题会有几次口译吗？我不知道，就是我想知道你做 SH 的那个 automation 的时候，你做 SH 指定的 remote automation 的时候呢，真的是用 Ruby 去写吗？因为我做同样的事情是直接用 shell script 的，就是用 SH 它指令，它就可以导入一个shell script 的脚本，然后直接在云端执行完回来后，可以做其他事情。 像那是什么？如果你是用 Ruby 的话，我想知道你是什么原因驱使你使用 Ruby 而不是shell script。
Okay, the question is that why I use Ruby as my SSH tool? Because shell script is more flexible. Is that what you mean? That is style problem, right? Yeah. In fact, the answer is that I'm not quite familiar with shell script. The only script that I know is Ruby. So I started using Ruby in this way, and I know there are a lot of possibilities in shell script. So yeah, I'll study that more, and thank you for the suggestion. Yeah, please.
Do you have any public repos of your favorite scripts? Like, have you open sourced your favorite scripts?
No, not yet.
So let's thank Editor for his very fresh speech.